Hello, everyone, and welcome to Transforming Today Show. I'm your host, Rebecca Weintraub, and today we are here with Rita Hausken. How are you, Rita?
I'm really good, and thank you for having me on the show. I'm very excited.
You are so welcome. So first and foremost, please tell our viewers how you help others in your coaching practice.
Yeah. So I coach women to communicate confidently in order to really create influence in male-dominated industries.
I love that mission, and more so, I love the alliteration that you used when you were describing it. So, okay, so there must have been something that led you into this practice. Would you like to share with us just a little bit about what led you there?
Yeah, I think my story in one way is twofold, but my background, which is leading me into my desire to help women in male-dominated industries, is that I have been working for an organization focusing on the oil and gas industry for 20 years. And I was a director for 15 of those years. And I was working on a global scale with mostly men, which is why I was surprised to learn that there were a reason why we didn't see more women. And I got curious about that. My focus and interest towards women started back in 2000 when we started to see women conferences showing up, more networking groups. And when I participated in these groups, I felt there were more chatting groups than dynamic, forward-moving conferences. So I had an interest towards that, and so I've been following the industry for a very, very long time. But the core of my story around communication, because that is where I do focus, confidence and communication, that started when my son got his diagnosis when he was 2 years old. And we were told that he had a very short lifespan and he would pass away by probably age 7. And what I learned then is that you might have 99% against your dream of seeing your son becoming something or living longer. But because the majority of people have a different belief than you, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't pursue your dream and see if there's something you can do and contribute with. So the part of that story was that I took it upon myself to take personal responsibility to look into medication for my son Benjamin, and which resulted in that he is still alive. He is 23 years old. He's the oldest living in the world with his diagnosis. So which taught me that even you're working against the majority of people, like I said, women does in male-dominated industries, that doesn't mean that we can't really make an impact, but we need to own it ourselves. The reason I then dived into communication was just this strange thing, because when Benjamin was 9.5, he stopped speaking. He lost his ability to speak. So up till that, that day, he was communicating in a pretty normal way. And the interesting thing that happened to me was that I felt I got to know him much better when he stopped speaking and verbalized. And that triggered something in me. And that was back in 2003. And then I had an urge to start studying coaching and emotional intelligence. And I didn't know why, but it was just something that really got my attention. I wanted to understand more. So I realized that there is so much power in really communicating on all levels, and we have a tendency to focus a lot on the verbal side of communication. So when I was working in my corporation, I also had the blessing of working with so many cultures where we meet people who speak several languages, but not necessarily perfect on all the languages. So we're communicating in many forms and shapes. And again, to be forward lean and to really listen, to understand what was going on behind there, you could actually understand by really paying attention to their expression, their facial expression, their body language. What I did was also to bring this into the corporation when I was working with my teams, because I was working with so many different nationalities. So I realized that the most powerful part of communication was deep listening. To really, really slow things down and show up with a very feminine trait, which is, in one way, sensuality, which is to slow things down. What made me start considering or reconsidering my position after 20 years was that I realized that our corporation was very much driven by masculine thinking, which doesn't necessarily mean there has to be only men. It can be equally many women, but it was a lot about the bottom line, go, 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 being told what to do and having to tell people what to do, which was against my own values. But it took me some years before I realized that something was not exactly where I wanted it to be. So when I decided to really dive into to coaching again, that was more because I was just seeking out something. And after my studies, I realized that I want to now go out of the corporate box. I want to be of value, to see these industries embrace other traits than what we currently see.
So I love this story. I love all the different facets that make up the message that you are now not just touting, but like having influence on, where it affects the greater, not just the greater good either, but individually, like as we come together, even if it's in a boardroom, like we're showing up differently. Like you were saying, like these softer skills, so to speak, you know, if you're talking in terms of masculine and feminine, like you were, you know, these more feminine and softer skills of the emotional intelligence, you know, even intuition. And I just think it's such a beautiful story. And I'm wondering already if you're starting to see a shift.
So I think the challenge that I see from women who has succeeded, and of course I can't give stigmatize this, but I would say from my experience, I see that women in very senior positions have a lot of masculine traits. Therefore, a lot of other women find them, that's not the person I would like to work for. When we talk about grit, we need more grit. We need to be more assertive. We need to be more focused. We need to be more goal-orientated. That becomes too much for us in the sense that we're pushing ourselves into a box. We are pushing us away from the softer skills that we have. So when I see the women on the very top, when we talk about who are the role models, I see that the younger generation say, well, I don't want to be like that. I want to be myself. How can I be myself? So what I realize is that, well, we have a challenge there, because if you talk to women, they don't even know what feminine traits are. They don't know necessarily what right brain thinking is. And when you look at the job descriptions, you will see that 95% of them are attracting masculine traits. So women who are brilliant leaders also say that, well, that doesn't really resonate with me. So because the world and in corporations are so driven by the masculine thinking, we are losing out on women, because women think that I need to become like that. So in my work, when we talk about communication, when we talk about showing our confidence, the first step is to work around really knowing yourself, really knowing your own core values. So you can slow down, know your ideas, know what you bring to the table, raise your hand in the boardroom or in team meetings or at conferences. Take a deep breath and start speaking from a place of knowledge and passion and things that is driving you forward. Because what we do see is that very often when we women finally do get the chance and have the courage to raise our hand, we believe that we need to show up with this power. And very often when we do that, we appear like, okay, I get your point, but why do you have to be so aggressive about it? What's your problem? And then we tend to present something in a very harsh way, which is not creating trust. So by inviting women into mastery of self-awareness, we are creating a greater understanding of how do you lead yourself, because then you can also start leading other people. It's to appreciate that we are different. And it is the difference we need. We need the mix of both masculine and feminine. And the balance can only show up if we show up who we are, that we remove the mask that we have, which is that very assertive, very independent, very logic way of thinking, and allow ourselves to be who we truly are.
As you're talking, I couldn't stop thinking about this one person that I worked with a long time ago. And I don't think I ever spoke to her. She was in upper management, she was an executive, and she was feared. And she played right along with the boys, and she was the only woman that played with the boys. And if I'm in a corporation or anywhere and I'm looking to a role model, like you were saying, like, do I look to that person and I say, I want to be just like you? It's hard to say yes to that question. And then fast forward, another place that I worked, there was a woman who, she was a director, and her whole career was ahead of her. I mean, she was so compassionate, and she took the time to teach me things. And she was so approachable. And I told her personal things that I would never tell anybody else at work. Like, that was just a policy of mine. I'll never tell certain people certain things. And I told her things, and I trusted her. And to this day, I still trust her. Exactly. And I thought to myself, do I want to be like her? And I don't even have to think for a second. The answer is absolutely yes.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, like, of the difference between the two. And as we have women growing up in corporations or any organization, like, it was clear that the second person I mentioned, I don't know if it was that she was holding truer to her values, because I can't say if the first person, if those were her values. It may have been. But to your point, if we're not judging one way or another, we just kind of take in and we're able to process how we process. It is very important to figure out what those core values are. So I'm wondering how you do that with your clients.
So when I'm working with my clients, I'm always asking them, what are they avoiding? What are you avoiding? And very often when we get real and clear on what you're avoiding, then we are getting clear on what is trying to emerge. So in a work situation, if you are avoiding confrontation, if you're avoiding bringing your true opinion to the table, then you're also preventing something to emerge. Maybe the leadership position is trying to emerge and it's just waiting for you to look the avoidance in the eyes and say, okay, this is my opportunity. So when we're working around that, very often there is a lot of the limiting beliefs that comes up in the avoidance. They think they are procrastinating, but that is such a shallow thing and shallow word compared to what are you truly avoiding. So by working around that very directly and identifying what that is, they can start becoming very confident in themselves. And then on the other side, they see that, wow, this is now emerging. There is this opportunity emerging when I'm dealing with actually my avoidance. And in this is communication. So what I heard, just like you were talking about the woman, what she did was communicate with you. And in communication, you create trust. And in trust, you lead. And in trust, people perform. So again, looking at the female trait, which is communication, which is about liking to have conversations. If we are preventing that, if I'm telling myself that, oh, I shouldn't say that because it's probably not good enough, we are actually suffocating something inside us, which is very, very important. And that is freedom of expression. So if we don't express, we will not be led forward. So in the avoidance question, there is the majority of the answers showing up is I'm avoiding to really speak up because I don't want the confrontation, or I believe that the idea has already been presented. Or maybe I'm opening the door for other people's idea to be presented, which is a very classic thing with middle management of women in middle management, is that they don't want to communicate because maybe they feel I don't have the answer. So let's keep it away. So that's one thing of the core thing that we would be working on. And it's also to understand that the conversation is the relationship in any form or shape. If you think about a partnership, a marriage, or whatever it is, if there's a problem with communication, that is the relationship. If you have problem communicating at work, that is your work situation. So your conversation is your relationship. Your conversation is the job. Your conversation is the satisfaction you have. That means that we need to put more emphasis on how do we then communicate and how do we then listen when that conversation is so important. So to embrace that I own my conversation. I'm highly engaged in what I'm presenting and I'm non-attached to the outcome because I don't know what's going to happen. But what I do know is that I have a drive, an urge to present something. And that will drive me forward in one way or the other. Either will drive me forward in this organization or it will move me to another organization because I'm greatly needed elsewhere in the capacity of who I truly am. So in order to do that, we need to get to know ourselves. What is that? And what is the core value of myself? So that's basically how we're working around these things to start with.
The word that was ringing in my head the whole time you were talking was vulnerability. And I think that came to me because I used to work somewhere where I was on a conference call with like all executives and me. And I was new to this position.
Mm.
And most of them were men. And so you can just imagine how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed quiet for months.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But by the end,
Mm-hmm.
not only was I speaking up, not only was I a part of the conversation, I was being asked my opinion, and my opinion turned into action, and that action and opinion made a difference.
Exactly. Exactly.
And the courage that it took to feel comfortable enough to just take a chance. And if I was wrong, I was wrong. But I think what's important is being in an environment where we feel safe in order to try.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering, when you work with your clients, are you providing that safe space for them where they can try?
Yes. So that is another part which is very important. It is actually to practice. It is to get out of your comfort zone. It is to embrace the fact that there are very little danger in the things that we are working on. So what we will be working on quite a lot is how to rephrase things so you get your message across in a manner that honor yourself, honor your core belief, and equally is non-judgmental for the person in front of you. So one of the things that I experience very often is that when they want to present something that I find very challenging, is that they might start with that and they say, so I'm going to bring this up either for the board or for the leader that, I have a concern. And the minute they say that, I have a concern, very often we see the reaction is that, okay, wow, that concern, that probably addresses me. It's something that I have done. The leader shows up like, in one way, they are protecting themselves. So by rephrasing that and have a think about, what is it that you truly want to accomplish in this conversation? How do you want to move forward? What is the end result? How do you see yourself walking out of this meeting? Who are you being when you leave in this meeting? Are you being happy? Are you being content? Are you being fulfilled? Who are you being? So really start with the end in mind and then say, right, okay, if you want everybody to really smile when they get out of the meeting, how do you want to enter this meeting? Because that is the entrance point. And again, one of the elements is very often when there is a challenge, there is 80% focus on the past and the negativity and maybe 20% on how they want to move forward, where it's about shifting this around and say, what is another way we can look at it? What is the opportunity that is in front of you now when you're having this dialogue with this leader? And you obviously have a great creative idea for your participation in the company or what you can contribute with more, or you have a solution. So there's a lot of practicing around those things. And I just came off a call with one of my clients. She's in Pakistan. She's working with a big bank, and there's a lot of culture. There is a lot of male dominance, and how to bring this forward. And the mind shift when she saw that actually going into this meeting with true desire of a beautiful result for how she would feel when she left the meeting and be non-attached to what the person says or decide on, that shifted the whole thing. So a lot of role play is taking place. In my practice, I have close dialogue with my clients on an ongoing basis. So let's say she is about to enter a very, very important meeting and she wants to present an idea. Very often she would connect with me before going into the meeting, where we go through just practicalities like go to the toilet, actually. go to the toilet and be in a state where you are relaxed. Walk slowly into the meeting. Breathe. And again, think about how do you want to exit this meeting? So just starting with that and getting into that frame of mind of being calm and at peace, and about how do you want to start the meeting? How do you want to present this? And also about how do you plan to listen? So because the active listening is such a powerful tool, because in the end, people will turn to you because they notice your active listening. When you then are getting ready to say something, you have all the attention in the world and you present it in a calm manner. Even if it's a critical situation, but because you're calm, it's different. So we do that. I'm following my clients from start to finish line, which is why I only work with my clients for a longer period of time to really take them through the whole scenario. Because it's practicing. Mastery of self-awareness is doing it on an ongoing basis. And to dare to go out of your comfort zone with a feeling that you have great support from somebody. So I am the support.
So I assume at some point there's a shift where as you're aiding them and supporting them in the process, when they're approaching that finish line, you start seeing them shift to relying on themselves a little more than relying on you. Can you talk about what that experience is like from a perspective of a coach?
Yeah, that is an amazing, complete transformation. And that is when they show up and explaining the actions that they took. And they own the action 100%. When they say, I have now changed out all the words but with and what I have seen is this enormous transformation in the way I am perceived and how I communicate. So they are starting to own this themselves. They know where they can tap into getting more knowledge. They are more forward lean in the sense that they invite people into that conversation. They experience that, they enjoy it. They experience that, wow, my opinion really matters. And not only does it matter, it has an impact. And I influence the decisions in this company because I have decided to raise my voice because I believe in it. I really believe in what I'm saying. And because now I do it in a manner where I feel confident, I own it. I'm okay when people, they are against it. They are disagreeing with me. So this is the thing, that they're okay with that disagreement. It's okay, it's beautiful. And then they could go in and ask more questions around the beauty of seeing things from different angles and then unite on moving the company forward, or lead from behind, or practice deep listening. So the transformation is amazing. And I would also say that some of the most beautiful thing I've experienced is like with one woman who was in a huge organization and a vice president of this company. When she realized that the only way she could really influence was to join a smaller startup company in the oil and gas industry, where she could actually influence decisions around giving back to society, where she could actually see that being compassionate in the organization than as a CEO. That's where she wanted to go. So it wasn't so much more about, climbing the ladder. It was, what is my intention? What am I doing? And to be out of the box, out of the corporate box. So there's magic happening when people own themselves and really feel like, yes, this is me. And then you meet like-minded people and you speak your language instead of trying to communicate 9 different languages to 9 different people and you're lost in translation. Who are you really? So yes, so the whole point of doing this is to go out there and do this yourself. This is, you just own this. You own this. And what I also would say is that investing in yourself, getting a mentor, investing in a coach is like investing in your personal MBA. Again, so many of the women I'm working with, they have PhDs, they have MBAs. And when we start working together, they realize that what use is there in all this if I don't have the confidence to really raise my voice and share what I believe? Then it's worthless. Yeah.
So I assume that this, for some people, this transformation that you lead them through is extremely intense in the sense that when they start, they may not even know their values. And when they're coming to that finish line, as you mentioned, they are this powerful, authentic person that is in touch with their values. There is a place probably slightly before you get to that ladder state where you stop yourself, you look around and you say, A, is this really me? B, am I believable? C, do I know what I'm talking about? Like all of that kind of doubt and the gremlins, as IPEC would say, start creeping in. And I'm sure at some point as this is progressing and as these people are growing into who they really are, you might hit that little bit. I'm not going to call it a roadblock. It's like set up for future growth, right? But when you hit that point, how are you leading them through that?
And yeah, that's a very good question, because I think what I've experienced the most is that they are taken by surprise how much they change themselves, and then they look around them and they see people who they believe are really close to them are no longer close to them. So in one way they feel alienated. It's like, these were my good friends, or these were my really good colleagues, and now it's like, well, I have nothing really to talk about anymore. That's when the doubt comes up. It's like, is this the right thing for me to do, or should I kind of crawl back into the familiar behavior so people know who I truly am? Because people around you have known you with this mask on, and now you're suddenly showing up. You acted like a cat, and actually you're a dog. And that is strange for people. So to take them through that, and this is important from the beginning, that there are lots of changes going to happen, and you might experience like you're leaving something behind. And that is not because you're not good enough, not because you're not authentic. It's the opposite. Because you are now peeling the onion and you're showing up with your true identity. And this is the way to move forward. So there is a lot of bouncing, back and forth around this, because there is a lot of nervousness showing up, that they feel nervous about it, because it's easy to go back to what you know instead of continuing on this road that will take you forward. So again, it's to have this honest, open conversation around transformations. And I did have a client who felt that she was so exposed. I feel so exposed. I mean, it's like my nervous my nervous system is like just so touchy, and I see everything, and it's like, would I like to just go back to the mud again because it was more comfortable down there? But then it's like, no, because there is a transformation, because those people who then you invite into your life are those who know you for who you are. And that's where growth happens. That is where you really, that is the butterfly, you know, and that is where freedom comes in. And you express yourself. So yes, definitely, there are several stages, there are several seasons in this relationship. So what I've also seen is that, so I work like either actually 3 months or 12 months. That is the typical 2 scenarios that I do. But there can be a gap in between where we work 3 months. That is the starting point. That just needs to evolve, and they're starting to change, and they started to implement. And then there is a need for just practicing what they have been taught and what they're learning, where we are, maybe we have contact, let's say once a month, we are checking in on things. And then the new season starts. Now the new season is, and then when we then connect, it's completely different ball game. This is, I know myself, what's next? You know, really take it up there. So it like I say to my clients, more than your money, I want your commitment. This is your commitment. How ready are you for transformation? And the question before that would also be, what are you tolerating in the situation that you're in? Because some people have figured out that I can tolerate where I am. And others say, I'm not having this anymore.
I'm wondering if a lot of the clients that you work with end up shifting to another organization. And maybe because it's not the right fit for them anymore.
There is actually a mix where some of them have moved departments within the organization. They've realized that they are working with, they have always thought that they loved working on let's say, technical drawings, and maybe so working a lot on your own. But something isn't feeling right. And they realize that, well, one of the core values is actually connection. And they're not connecting with anyone. They're just in this space, but they're not connecting. They need stimuli from other people. So this is the thing that to be very much aware of, that you might be into something and you have a clash on your values there. And then by following your value, you can contribute with your technical expertise in a situation where you may be more connecting with clients, where you're bringing up this kind of technical work on another side of the organization. So that is something that we see. There is a shift there. Naturally, yes, there is also the shift. It's very easy to talk about the glass ceiling. You know, oh, we're not moving because there's a glass ceiling. What I do say is that if you hit the glass ceiling, it's time to change houses. If you have done everything you can to share, to show up, to do everything, it's time to get out of mediocrity. It's time to own it and bring your talents to another organization. Because what I always say is this: you are greatly needed elsewhere. And as women, we have a tendency to, well, but I need to support this, I need to support that. And then you are playing so mediocre. The world needs you to bloom. It needs you to show up with your full potential and dare to take risk of owning your skills, of owning your dreams, because you really matter. So yes, when we've gone through this a few times, like, okay, the conversation with this, the conversation with that, with a board or with a leader or with something, and nothing moves, it's your freedom of choice, isn't it? Choose your manager, choose your company. Because if not, the finger points at yourself. You have the opportunity to do something with it. So then, yes, we see people actually looking more into what is a company culture. They are far more looking into the softer values of companies than they used to. So they might shift the job. Or they do startups.
So is there an exercise or anything in particular that you do when someone is thinking of moving to another organization, things that are evaluated, whether that's inside of them, and also when looking at the company's profile, how do you lead them through looking at a new opportunity?
Yes. So again, the starting point is to really understand what energizes you, to understand that for you, it is actually important to work together with people. For you, it's important with very clear agreements in a working relationship, and not go into a company where there's a lot of expectations and there is no real communication. So be very clear on what are the non-negotiables. What is it that you, this I can't tolerate. If you have decided that I will not travel as much, then that is something that you bring to the table in all open honesty. So knowing where you're coming from is a starting point, because it can be very easy to, I just want to get out of there, I just want to find something new, and you're forgetting to really tap into, okay, what type of energy is it that is moving you forward and that makes you the best person to work for that exact company, because nobody knows that better than yourself. Don't go and ask your friends about those things, because deep down your innate wisdom knows who you are. Ask yourself, what is it that you really know to be true for you? Not the unknowns, but what is it that I truly know to be true for me? Identify those things. When you then go out and you are identifying companies, because you have identified yourself first, your vision will be different. You will see, when you're reading position or you're networking, there are words that will resonate with you when you're talking to people. When these things shows up, you know that these are the companies I would like to work for. And also be very clear on what is it that you can contribute with. How are you leading this company forward? How can you demonstrate your skills? And one of the things I always ask is, let's say you're just in an interview. We don't know the topic, we don't know the company, we don't know anything, but they are asking you, great, you're a great person. Can you demonstrate your skills for us right now? That usually is the aha thing, because you might think that you want to work on, again, let's say technical thing, and then you realize that, wow, what I would like to demonstrate is how good I am in negotiation. So you might say, yeah, I would demonstrate this by saying, can you bring in 2 people into this room that have different views on something? And I would demonstrate how I will negotiate, how I will bring them together and move them forward as one unit. So that is another thing that we will do together to create understanding of what is it that they truly would like to do. And also get a meta view on things. What really matters, what is your intention for life? If family matters a lot and you want to spend a lot of time with your family, what type of job would you like to have that is complementing that? So yes, again, you might be a doctor, you might be a geoscientist. Yes, that is what you kind of are by education. But how do you plan to live your life? How do you plan to, what do you plan to do? If you don't want to travel, well, obviously it's a very difficult to accept a job, which is traveling all over the world, which is very typical for these type of jobs, or vice versa. If you want to travel and you want to help a division out there in the world, and you see that there's, in this company, we only work very locally in this city, well, it's nothing for you. Even they are looking for your education or your experience. So really understand yourself, knowing what you want. And by doing that, walking into an interview, you also understand how you can contribute to the company's growth, because you're passionate about it. And that is the energy that sometimes makes or break it in an interview. You just don't understand. I was one of the 2 final, and why didn't I get it? And when we actually go through it, something deep down said, actually, I don't want this job. So be aware of what you want.
You mentioned the word passion just now, and you are clearly passionate about what you do. What is your absolute favorite thing about helping others in this way?
Wow. It's to see them bloom. It's to see them showing up, relaxed, smiling, because they know that regardless, they speak from their heart and their opinion matters. And even it doesn't matter for the person they're talking to, they speak to themselves. It's such a passion for them. So seeing the transformation, and also see how mastering every single conversation you have has an impact on your family life, your staff, your organization. Everything moves forward in a very energetic manner. So I love when I see that transformation, and when they're finally like, Rita, you know what? I'm finally home. So that is oh wow, it's amazing. It's magic.
So yeah, let's talk about that magic, because sometimes it really does feel like magic, and sometimes we kind of get so high on the joy that we have for our clients and the energy that's just running through us. When you have, let's say, a full day of clients and you've shifted everybody, it's hard to like contain that energy. What are some of the things that you do to kind of absorb that, acknowledge it, but maybe slow it down a little?
Absolutely. So again, one of my own core values is nature. Living in Norway, we have a lot of nature and a lot of weather around us. And for me, there's nothing more rewarding. Oh, now the light went off. There's nothing more rewarding than to go out and feel Mother Nature nurturing me. So that is basically what I do. But I would also say that I have very strong morning rituals, which is where I set the intention for my day. I will never give my sovereignty away to emails, news, or anything like that. I will own my own power, meaning that I will use my time sitting in silence or meditate, doing visualization, doing a lot of writing and journaling, where I would write to myself, what is the intention for my day? How do I want to show up? So actually, by identifying that early in the morning before I get started, has an influence of how I experience my day. And morning practices is the first thing I would talk to my clients about. Because what I do see is that they let themselves they are so reactive. And what we are working on now is to be proactive. Where are you going to move your life? How are you going to face the challenges, the emails, the clients, the meetings? Will you show up being curious? Will you show up being a deep listener?
Mm.
Will you show up sharing your thoughts? So by actually deciding on how you want to show up from the morning, before you have responded, before you have seen any news or emails or anything, the sovereignty is yours. You're not giving it away to anyone. And you become very much aware of who you are, and especially from the morning is a very, very powerful thing. So that's basically how I do.
That discipline that you have, how hard was that to make that a routine and then instill that in yourself where it's necessary every day?
Right. That's a very good question. I think one of the books that I read that really transformed my life was Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, where it was about how do you actually take the 1 hour or the 6 minutes and take ownership and decide on your attentions. So I think when I realized my values, I understood my intentions. And in my intentions, the goals appeared. Very often we work opposite. We work toward goals and then we have intentions and values. But really the value creates the intention for how I want to live my life. And then from there, the goals are created. So when I realized that communication is one of my core values and deep listening is part of that, how can I demonstrate this skill with myself before I go out and do this out in the world? So in the work on living intentionally, I said, this is just something I want to do. And what I did as a practice was, before I went to bed, I would be very, very clear on what excites me in the morning. What is it that I'm getting up to do in the morning? I'm a 5 a.m. girl. What am I going to get up and do? And remember that in Norway, it's like half a year, it's pitch black. And getting up 5 in the morning is quite hard. Mm-hmm. So to be very clear on my intentions, what is it that I'm so motivated to get up and like I just bing and show up? So I would mentally prepare myself to look forward to getting up in the morning and then get out of bed, brush my teeth, go downstairs and do my rituals. So, but it took practice, obviously. But I have to say that it shifted very quickly when I realized that by setting my intention to have a fabulous morning, knowing exactly what I was looking forward to. Because if you wake up, okay, I'm going to get up 5 in the morning. So what? Is that something to look forward to? Just get up 5 in the morning because it's cool? No, it's what is it that I'm going to do then? And then moving that forward and then really owning my day. And so that is the ritual, and it took practice to do that. And again, but I do recommend Miracle Morning as one of them to dive into.
What I love about you is that it's obvious that you are taking such good care of yourself so that you can show up in a supportive way, with your mind clear, with that intuition flowing, so that you can really connect and communicate with your clients. And, it's very easy to not do that. If you're a natural born teacher, you might be the best teacher in the world, but if you're not practicing what you're asking others to do, it's a whole different thing.
Absolutely.
And I've experienced both sides of that, and I'll take doing the hard work today over not doing it. And so, like, I want to give a big bravo to you.
Thank you.
It's hard. It is hard. It takes effort, and for it to be at the point where it is like part of your day and part of who you are, and a routine that if you weren't to do it, it would be very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That is really miraculous. And I just want to acknowledge that. And so,
Thank you.
viewers, if you guys don't love Rita already, like I always say this, if you guys, what's wrong with you? No, but nothing's wrong with you. But seriously, like, Rita is such a beautiful person. She's clearly doing like amazing things with her clients. So if someone has watched this and wants to work with you, how do they get a hold of you, Rita?
Yeah, so they can go to my website, which is my name, ritahausken.com, or they can email me at rita@ritahausken.com. It's quite easy, straightforward.
Okay. And what does that look like? If they were to contact you, what happens then?
So what happened is that I love to connect. So when they reach out to me, I will invite them in to have just a conversation, a straightforward, what's going on, 15 minutes conversation. And based on that, we will then either see, should we take this deeper? And then I might offer it could be a power session, which is a couple of hours. And that 2-hour session might shift everything. That's all you need. You don't really need anything more. And I give you some tools to work with and books to read and some things you can practice, and you're off to go. Or in that session, we might feel that there's so much more we can do together, that then I will again take a close look at what I'm working with, and the principle of my program is always mastery of self-awareness. So again, that is a 3-month program or a 12-month program. The 12-month program is established around actually four retreats a year, where we meet up wherever that is in the world for 2 days, and we really connect very, very deeply, and we work around things. And that is then supported by weekly conversations. So the fundamental is that connection. It's to get the person who might then be a leader. This is very much C-suite level, is that they're getting themselves out of the norm, out of their corporate world, out of their family, out of the whole thing, to really shift their mindset. We could do hiking, we could do diving, scuba diving, or just get out in nature, or just be at a beautiful spa and completely relax in that moment. So we work around that. And then in that program, we would also tailor it around some books that is really helpful tools in this. And then, of course, in the 3-month program, it is, again, meeting usually weekly. And again, a constant follow-up actually on WhatsApp, which I've found to be a very powerful tool. And I work with max 8 clients at the same time. So I read everything that I invite my clients to read. So I'm learning as much as they are, and I'm developing together with them, and we share this in a very, very powerful way. So that's basically how it works.
Rita, you are so special. I am so glad, and I'm going to give a shout out to Miles Smith. He's the one that connected us. You're so special, and you've influenced me so much today. You really have. I learned so much, and I've become inspired to step it up a notch or two on my own side here. And I just want to thank you so much for being on with me today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Can I just come with one last thing?
You can do whatever you want.
I just wanted to share my own. I mean, obviously, I'm working with my own coach, and I've been working with her for quite a few years. So one of my own weekly assignments that is very important in my life, I'm always asking 2 questions. What am I avoiding? What's trying to emerge? In anything I do. And when I figure out what I'm avoiding, everything transforms. And what is trying to emerge is actually emerging, and I'm moving forward. So if only asking these two questions, that would be the most magnificent thing to just bring back from this conversation to anyone watching it, is these two questions.
Yeah, that's a fantastic takeaway. So with that, I'm actually going to address our viewers. Viewers, thank you so much for being here. This was a really special episode, and I loved my time with Rita. I hope you guys loved being here with us. I hope you learned a lot. For those of you that are executives or middle management, or just anybody who can take the lessons that we've learned today, apply them to your life, look at those core values, look at your intentions, and figure out who you really are, so you can be bold and you can really make influence in this world. Because I truly believe that we're all meant to do something. We were all designed to have some kind of purpose, to influence, to help others, to love others. And there's a special way that we all can do that. So find that special way and go out and do it. So with that said, we're going to sign off. Again, Rita, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you.
Oh, awesome. All right, everyone. That's it for us. See you later.
Bye. Bye.
Your background is beautiful. The only thing I would say is the light bulb right behind you.
This one?
That one. If you could either sit perfectly in front of it.
Can I sit like this? Is that better?
Yeah.
Very good.
Did you just feel like I was the teacher and you were like in grade school?
Exactly.
Yes, you may.
Move. Okay. I'll really try to sit still and behave. I loved it. And you're very easy to talk to, and then you're kind of completely forgetting that actually you're being recorded, or this can be used, or whatever. So amazing, really amazing.
That's what we try to do here at Transforming Today Show.
Absolutely.